to you guys today. I built this as how to get more referrals. And I've been giving a lot of thought to referral-based marketing or CRMs, how we manage them, and the value that we create in doing so. And I had a really interesting experience on Saturday because I was helping two individuals come to an agreement on buying and selling a book of business. And this happened to be on an agent that has left the market. So he's been gone for over a year. Okay. And to his credit, though, he's been staying in touch with his clients. And he's been communicating at least once a month by email with something, information of value, and then other touches as appropriate, with some of his tighter relationships. And he has maintained his license. This is in Oregon, and even did a handful of transactions last year because of that, even though he's now in Houston. And when I was helping the buyer of this book of business to evaluate the value of it, and we were asking him a bunch of questions, what are you sending? How often are you sending it? What does a contact record look like? Of course, we want to know how much business he's doing and been doing and so forth. But I will tell you that the conclusion that the person that I was representing came to was that had he not continued that communication, he would not have been interested in buying that book. So the simple act of doing this monthly communication to that client base made this book, and not a huge book. I mean, it's only $100,000, but it's $100,000. Okay. And one of the things that I wanted you guys to be thinking about is that if you knew that each and every contact record that you had in your CRM could be worth $1,000, how would you treat that? Which is worth writing down. If each of my contacts in my CRM are worth $1,000, how would I treat that record? How would I treat that individual? How would I engage with them? And I'm going to show you here in a few minutes why that is the case. Actually, $1,000 is almost dead on with what I'm seeing in most of these databases that I've been assessing. So I think Eric gave me share control. So I'm going to pull up a deck to go through with you guys. But we have a really interesting opportunity. And one of the things that I really admire Tom Daves for is that he has consistently gotten himself in front of big opportunities in our market, right? I mean, his Wayne Gretzky quote, which is, of course, skating to where the puck is going to be, right? And, you could look at this market right now and you could say, well, we have record unaffordability and we've got volume that is at a 31-year low. And we have the NAR suit and we've got the threat of AI. Okay. And we could sit there like a deer in the headlights and go, oh my gosh, this is just too tough. Or we could ask ourselves the question of what unique opportunities are being presented because of this environment. And I'm thinking that's kind of what Tom has done. I mean, the guy's not a rocket scientist. So how have you identified these trends, Tom? What would you say to that?
Well, I would say probably just collaboration, going to events, meeting with other top agents and brokers in different non-competitive areas. So Jim Rohn says you're the sum total of the 5 people you spend most time with, just, through the REOs. It was like, I'll never forget. I was in Miami, Florida, and I met Mark Spain, and he said, "Hey, the REOs are coming." And this was in early 2007. And he gave me a contact of Fannie Mae. And then the rest is kind of history. Another event I went to, another colleague, I was in Denver, and a colleague said, "Hey, Blackstone Private Equity, they're looking to come to Sacramento." Handed a contact, and then I made that call and connected with them. So
I think you got on a plane and flew to New York too.
Yeah,
didn't
I
you?
flew to New York and met with Blackstone Private Equity, Jonathan Gray and the CEO, the CFO, and just by getting scared. In fact, I've got it right here. Get scared. Do something that's going to scare you every day. So just doing the reps, right?
Right. So the question that if we're going to follow in Tom's footsteps and think about where this puck is going, who's heard of the term the silver tsunami? Anybody? Right? Yeah. Courtney, Jason, Matthew, Tom.
Yeah.
Well, it's a real deal. Okay. 25% of the agents out there are 65 or over. The average age of a realtor now is 55 years old. And because of the conditions, I guess is what I'll call them, that I spoke of a few moments ago, which is the NAR suit, record low volume, record unaffordability, threat of AI. I think we've got a lot of baby boomers that are looking for the exit. And so that presents a really unique opportunity for a referral, an agent that wants to work primarily by referral. And so that's what this talk is all about. So let me launch into it. So as I've been evaluating these books of business for people, you can see in the magnifying glass there, it says 300 clients, 300 million.
We don't see it. We just see Zoom tab.
Megan, thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
I have before gone 20 minutes into a presentation and realized that you guys weren't seeing my stuff. So what would I do without Megan? Anyway, thank you, Megan.
We still only see the Zoom screen. You might just want to, just stop sharing and reshare, and we should be good.
Okay. I'm going to try this one more time. Okay, How about now?
We're good.
Okay. So you should see a magnifying glass over the Pro Insight app that shows 300 clients, 300 million under assets under management. Everybody see that? Okay. Okay, perfect. Now, what I want you to notice is that it's about $1 million in real estate per client. And I have noticed that to be a pretty predominant trend. Like Stephanie Peck had 800 clients and 934 million assets under management. And so if you can, write this down. If I've got 300 million assets under management and people moved every 10 years, that means $30 million in real estate would transact with that client base. If I was getting a 40% capture rate of that, I would do $12 million. If I'm charging 2.5% on $12 million, I'm making $300,000. Do you see the correlation? I have 300 clients and I'm making $300,000. Okay. And that is roughly the value of that book of business as well. At any rate, when you are evaluating a book of business, and I've asked a couple title reps to be here, Jason and Evangelia, thank you for taking the time. Because what I've noticed is that they probably have the most agent relationships of any affiliate. And so if there's anybody that knows about somebody that is thinking about wanting to exit the business, they're usually a pretty good contact for that. So I wanted them to be able to see what we're up to so that they could identify folks for you guys. At any rate, we take this database, it's 300 to 500 people. And in this case, we run the deep dive to get the assets under management and identify the done for you opportunities, which is another conversation I won't go into now. But basically, it's the opportunities to serve your client base. When we're establishing a value of a book, we ask the potential seller to track the source of every sale, because what we're trying to establish is what we call a warm GCI. So we want to know those deals that were caused by sphere of influence, clients, client referral, sign calls, things where I did not have to spend money or prospect to get. The deep dive then will give us our assets under management, our transfer rate, and our capture rate, right? Which were the three elements that I just mentioned. And look at that, Matthew. Getting a kiss during the Zoom? Geez, we should all be so lucky. Oh, Lexi, that's cute.
She's going out door knocking, Don. She's making it happen. So,
wow. Yeah, remind me to tell you about Mike Robinson in Auburn.
Oh, yeah, I know Mike in Auburn. Yeah.
Anyway, guys, let's say that, I'm suggesting to you, if you have a client base of 300 for whom you act as a real estate resource to become the realtor of choice, it would be a reasonable expectation in today's market to translate that to at least $250,000, but probably 300,000. But let's just say, you've got some of that Tom Dave's blood in you, and 300,000, it just isn't enough. So what would you do if you wanted to do 500,000? Wouldn't you go to 500 clients and 500 million assets under management? Same transfer rate, same capture rate, and you could be doing $500,000. Now, you might say, gosh, it takes a while to add 200 clients to my database. And you'd be right. It would take most people 5, 6, 7 years to do that. Or you could just go acquire a book of business with 200 million assets under management next month. Okay. So when we go through these contacts, one of the things that we look for is the people that are in the contact database that have left the market. So imagine those as the white dots on our map here. And then the red dots are people that have left the market but still own property in the market. And of course, we do want to nurture those closely, right? And have Zooms where we do market updates so that those folks can stay tuned in to what is going on in your environment. One of the other exercises that I do with people that are looking to buy and sell books of business is we do what's called a positioning exercise. And some of you are familiar with this 16-box grid. When on the latitude, when I think about expensive, I think about maybe somebody that's charging 7%, or cheap would be 2%. Service-oriented is very a relational agent. Process-oriented is very transactional. What we have found is that the best books of business to buy are box 6. So not the most expensive in the market, but a little bit over average. And they're not trying to be everybody's best friend because they're doing quite high volume. And so they're busy. That being said, they are friendly and they have tremendous interpersonal skills. I would say that this would also, if you want to build a business by referral, this is a position that you may want to ensure that you are at least close to that. And what we tell people is when you're buying a book of business, you don't have to buy a book that's exactly your position, but it shouldn't be more than one box away, either on latitude or longitude. So again, valuing the book of business. One of the things, the first thing that we do is we look at that last 12 months GCI. And remember, we looked at the source on every transaction. We reverse out the spend for Zillow or any advertising that they did. And we reverse out the transactions that were attributed to prospecting or that came as a result of prospecting. Because I don't know anybody that wants to buy a book of business just for the right of spending money with Zillow or having to pick up the phone. If they're going to buy a referral business, they want to buy the warm GCI. And in this case, that's $240,000. And I think it's kind of remarkable, right, that a book of business, a real estate business, could be worth that. When we were waiting for folks to arrive, I was just talking about some of the stats of some of these MLSs that I've been pulling in the last week, even. San Diego, by the way, the average price down there is, for Deanne, who I'm working with, it's 1.4 million for her, but let's say it's even 1 million for most of them. The lowest volume that I was pulling up was 18 closed transactions in the last 12 months, but we pulled up 18 to 48. And we were looking for at least 10 years in the business. And why 10 years in the business? Why did we make that a stipulation? The reason is because we want sellers. Like if we advertise with Zillow or get on the Zillow Flex program and so forth, you're going to get predominantly buyers. And when you're early in the business, it's usually a buyer heavy. Like Matthew, wouldn't you say Lexi has had more buyers than sellers so far? Is that a fair statement? Unless you've referred her some listings.
Yeah, that would be the case. So yeah, sure. If I wasn't doing the listings, she'd be, because she's doing open houses and, all the things.
Exactly. So what happened, you guys, up until about 5 years in the business, most people will have a buyer heavy business. So let's call it, let's say until 5 years in, it's like 70% buyers, 30% sellers. That pendulum starts to swing because some of the people that you put into properties actually begin to become a seller. So when we make a selection of people that we're targeting that have got at least 10 years experience, and remember, we're using that as a minimum qualifier. So I don't know what the average was of that San Diego data set, but I presume at least 15 years. And so what's going to happen is the people that will buy those books of business are going to end up acquiring what will be a listing heavy, hopefully 70-30, bless you, Courtney, book of business, right? How fun is that? So not only are you not paying 40% for an internet lead, you're paying 25% for a referral, and it's predominantly listings. I think that's a pretty good gig. Once a buyer and seller establish a value for the book of business, and that's a new innovation, by the way. If you read the Golden Handoff, they did a time frame, but I have noticed when you name a number, it tends to be motivating for both parties. So once that number is agreed upon, then you establish an event schedule. Our recommendation is that you establish 2 years of events, 4 events per year. 2 are client appreciation and 2 are educational. We recommend the educational ones be over Zoom so that you can include the folks that are out of area but still own property in your local market. When you may announce a partnership, and by the way, that is something that you want to do with this, right? In other words, you don't actually, even though you're buying the book of business from the seller, it's best if they don't actually retire completely, but actually partner with you, which some of you might think, hey, that could be a recruiting strategy. And it is. I'm planning to recruit 2 icons a month this way, okay? And the point, though, is that we want the perception of their database to be that they have teamed up with you and now they're enjoying greater benefits because of that. And as a matter of fact, the first announcement of the partnership is inviting them to a client appreciation event, which is going to be led by you. We also recommend in that package that you send them a sticker. Now, if you're part of the Pro Insight Network, you'll be supplied these, but you could do this on your own. You don't have to be part of Pro Insight to do this. you could make up a sticker like Amy Stockberger has done, which, by the way, she sells 500 properties a year. So a good person to copy. And she puts these stickers up in the garage next to the garage door opener, or if they don't have a garage, they generally put them up in a utility room. And that sticker not only points to her, but it points to her other preferred affiliates. So now you have lifetime home support for anything. And that is a perception that you want your clients to have. When they think of real estate, you want them to think of you. Okay. Now, if you were a member of Pro Insight, then you would also have an opportunity for the other affiliates to do the same thing, because we support right now 38 different professional types on our platform. But this is where it gets exciting, because as realtors, we do the fewest number of transactions of all of the professions. Right? So we might do 18 transactions a year. A carpet cleaner is going into more than 18 homes every single month. And they're putting that sticker up because it's going to be their branding, right? But when people hit that QR code, there's only one realtor that it points to, and that would be you. I spoke about wanting to give the seller the opportunity to continue selling even though you have bought their book of business. We do this primarily to ensure that there is a transfer of personal relationship, right? Because if they're working by referral, a lot of these are personal relationships, and you're going to want to meet these people at the client events that you're hosting with the new partner. But what's interesting also is that let's say they were doing 300,000 and they go down to 100, 125,000. That 25% pays for the exit strategist fee. You know, like let's say, like on this book of business that I just illustrated for you, I would make $24,000 as an exit strategist. If the seller is doing 100,000 GCI paying 25%, they paid the whole thing. So it's literally free to the buyer. You know, when I'm explaining this to people, I go, well, gee, if you could buy a rental with no money down and it cash flowed from day one, how many of those would you want to buy? Yesterday, I was on the phone, I was on Zoom with a guy that runs a team out of Pennsylvania that has 20 sub-agents. He's considering buying a book for each of his sub-agents, 20 books. Okay, I mean, why not? And then he's going to, because he's running a team, he'll own those leads. And if the sub-agents stay with him at least 3 years, he'll give them the opportunity to buy a book from him. So he's going to be building a book in their geographic area and then selling them a $250,000 book on their third year, which they'll then pay off over the next 3. So it's a way to build a team and get paid on a sub-agent for 6 years. So this is what it looks like as a buyer. Let's say we've got somebody that's doing 20,000. They immediately jump up to 30,000 GCI. And notice, even though the buyer is paying off the exit strategist and then the seller, their net income jumped by 2,500 immediately by month 2, first closing. The exit strategist is paid off by the 4th month, and then you're simply paying the seller, and you'll see how that seller is going to enjoy an income of roughly $15,000 for 3 years. This is what it looks like as an exit strategist, 24,000 on a book of 240 and paid off within 4 months. And then this is what the seller perspective looks like. Their income does come down a little bit, but of course they go from 50 to 60 hours a week to probably 5 to 10. They're still, the low is 10 and it jumps back up to 15.5 and then 17.5 gross, 15K net for 3 years, which I think is more than most sellers would perceive to be possible from their database. So that's it. I wanted to just hopefully make an impression on you guys that I don't think there's ever been a moment in time in real estate history when this has been a bigger, better opportunity than today. Have you ever heard the expression buy low, sell high? Anybody? Okay.
Yes.
If we're going into MLS today and someone has closed between 18 and 48 deals in the last 12 months, how much volume do you think that they were doing with that book of business 2-3 years ago? I mean, at least 50% more, right? So why not buy a $250,000 book of business today that when the market comes back in a few years from now, do nothing but just nurture that database? Isn't it going to be worth at least $375? And by the way, you guys, there's nothing stopping you from buying 1, 2, 3, 5 databases. Okay, what I'm telling you is that if you want to make $250,000, get 250 people in your database for whom you are a real estate resource to be their realtor of choice. Do 4 client events a year. Have 2 of them be client appreciation, 2 of them educational. Okay, do those with the affiliate so you get enough audience there, right? With all of your affiliate partners so they invite their guests as well. Okay, if you want to make $350,000, get 350 people in your database. Think of this as assets under management. The financial services industry has been taking this approach for decades, probably more than 100 years. Ask any financial advisor you know what their assets under management are. They will give you the answer at a moment's notice, right? It's because that's how they get paid. Well, it turns out that's how you get paid too, right? The math isn't as exact. It's going to be slightly different for different people. It's going to vary based on the transfer rate. Incidentally, the transfer rate right now is quite low. It's not actually 10 years. In most areas, I would say it's more like every 15 years. It does vary a little bit between primary residence and income property. Okay, so let's say it is 15 years. All right, well, instead of 300 contacts to make my 300,000, maybe I need 450. Just decide how much money you want to make, and then let's go get you a book of business that's going to provide that level of income. And if you're a bit of a deer in the headlights with all this information and going like, well, geez, well, how can I do that? Well, then call me, for heaven's sakes. I'll help you. Okay. This is not complicated. Okay. We are at it. This is our time to be able to take advantage of this market circumstance. And literally, what's so beautiful about this particular strategy is that anyone can do it. Like if I was coming here today to say, hey, okay, you guys, this new company called Zillow is got this thing, and if you spend 20 cents, you can make $1. Well, not everybody's got 20 cents to spend. Okay. Not everybody has the ability to do an open house every single weekend. But all of us have an opportunity to work by referral. I will say, if you're going to do this, one of the commitments that you're going to want to make to it, and actually one of the conditions that I encourage my sellers to require the buyer, is to make personal contact with each member in that data set each quarter. Okay. And you guys probably know I like the number 300 because there's 60 working days in a quarter if there's 20 a month. And so you just dial 5 people a day. If you don't reach them, leave them a voicemail, leave them a text, whatever. But it's 5 personal communications a day. You're probably going to end up talking to 1 or 2 of them is all. Time block 1 hour a day for that activity. And remember, I'll close this thought process and maybe open it up to questions if you guys have any. I'd love to discuss it. But remember what I said at the beginning. how would you treat a contact record and a relationship if you knew it was worth $1,000? Wouldn't you look at each contact in your data set a little bit different? Right? Would you get their birthdays? By the way, is there anybody that keeps the occupation of your clients? Marion does. All right. Brett does.
All of them are the same for me.
What's that?
All of them are the same for me.
Well, here is, yeah, right. Yeah, I guess it would be for you, Evangelia. Well, not exactly, because you probably have realtors and lenders as clients. But the point is that if you're expecting your database to refer you, and yet you haven't even taken the time to learn what their occupation is so that you can refer them, is that appropriate? Okay, the question in the chat was, how do I do this as a newer agent? And, that's actually a pretty legitimate question. Okay, so one of the things that Tom and I teach is to surround yourself with people that are just one click ahead of you. Okay, so, let's say you're doing $50,000, you're doing just 2, 3, 4 transactions a year. Okay, well, you know what? You're probably not going to win a $300,000 book of business. Okay, that's probably your reality right now, right? Because if I'm a seller of a $300,000 book of business, I want the best of the best to sell that book because I'm going to be getting paid by referral. I want to make doggone sure that they're going to be able to do those transactions. So, Marianne, the answer for you is just get somebody a little better than you. Okay. So, in other words, if you would have been the one doing that search in San Diego, you wouldn't have done 18 to 48. But what if you did 4 to 8 transactions? Okay. And what if you didn't put a stipulation on how many years in the business that they had to be? Right? So the question is, do what you can do. And here's a little secret for you. How about just figure out people that have already left the market? Okay. Think about what happened on Saturday when I helped those guys put that deal together. That guy left for Houston a year and a half ago, and we're getting him $100,000. Now, it's going to be in referrals, of course, right? So it's going to take 3-4 years to get that. But my point is, Marianne, find out who has left the market. When you have a question, go ahead. You've got your hand raised.
Yeah. I've been interacting with an old friend of Tom Dave's who has left the industry for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. He is struggling to sell his last personal home, his last house. Mm-hmm. I started engaging with him about his book of business because you announced the seminar. I invited him here today, and he's not on the call, unfortunately, because I said we could learn how to do this together. Mm-hmm. But I've just been helping him learn how to market his home a little bit better, building up that relationship. I've even found him a free photographer.
Nice.
And he's mainly done business in the Folsom area. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make this be a good thing. And maybe I'll talk to someone afterwards. But
well, by the way, Eric is recording this session, so you can send him the recording.
Okay.
Yeah, and we always post these up at our Facebook page, Atomic Habits Powered by EXP.
And I could tell that there's some struggling going on, and that's why I'm starting to help him write his MLS, helping get Mojo going to do an open house. I may even host one for him this weekend if my time allows me. And then I found him a photographer who's trying to start out. So let's just get a few things fixed, building that relationship, and he may just give me his book of business.
Well, yeah, it's possible. And I guess my encouragement to you is, that's one possible source for you. But, you guys, when I get myself in a real pickle, and I have on a number of occasions, I will just ask the question, okay, well, what can I do? Okay, maybe Marion can't go out and acquire a book of business from an agent doing 300,000 right now at her stage of her career. But, maybe she can get one from an agent that left the market 6 months, a year from now, and wasn't expecting to get anything for their database, right? If 25% of the realtors are 65 or over, okay, we've got realtors dying every month in our community. Talk to the spouse. I mean, yesterday, sadly, I was talking to one of our agents, Dimitri, who happens to be, is Matthew still here? Anyway, Tom Davis probably knows Mike Robinson. You know who I'm talking about? Yeah. So this guy, Mike Robinson, he is legendary for door knocking in Auburn with pads. 3,000 homes every 90 days. I mean, the guy's just has done, and he did it for decades, right? And he had an amazing business, but you know what? He's over 80 years now, 80 years old, and he got Alzheimer's.
Back situation.
And so he can't practice now. And Dimitri's actually in touch with his wife, but a lot of his book of business was sellers because he was just door knocking. This guy did nothing but door knock, which is kind of cool, right? But it worked. It worked amazingly well. My point to you is that there are all kinds of folks out there that are burned out, that are leaving your community. I mean, how many Californians are taking off for who knows where, Tennessee or whatever else, right? How many people in Portland are going to Arizona? So lots and lots of opportunities out there. And if you get your hooks into one of them, just reach out to me. I'll help you. Okay. I bet we could put together a deal for you. And how fun would that be? All right. That's my message. Oh, Brett, go ahead.
So for everybody else on the call, because obviously, I'm training to do this. I actually meet Justin next week since I've finished my modules. Cool. But I've been thinking about this for me as someone I ran a large productivity coaching group for 80 plus agents. We won Rookie of the Year 4 years in a row. Woohoo. So I know what I'm doing. But before that, I was traveling around the country as a MAPS coach. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, it's going to be a hard sell because I've been in traditional production a bit. But how could someone like me in my situation find the right book? Right. So for me, Don, it would be predominantly in Denver. I don't even like the suburbs here. And I would need to find that person. And I can't take on a team of 8's book by myself. Mm-hmm. I can take on a husband-wife team, a high-producing solo agent's book.
Mm-hmm. And do you want to personally produce, Brett, or?
Well, that was the thought. As we look at that, whatever the hell is going to happen the next few years with everything happening in the world, it doesn't seem like rates are going to go down and the market's going to improve. Right. So what a great time to build that too while building everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always tell Stephanie if I were to go back into practicing, I would probably emulate her, her team, because she's done such a magnificent job of having a boutique team in Oregon City. And, but yeah, I mean, you could build a little team if you desired to do that. I think if I were to do that, I would try to buy a book of someone that had been in the business for more than 10 years. And I would just do the sellers. I'm just too lazy to work with buyers at this stage of my life.
Anyone that.
And so, but yeah, I mean, just like we gave the advice to Miriam, because you're not in high level of production, it will be harder for you to get a really high-end book. But you also have coached top teams and so forth. So it's not like you lack the knowledge, mm-hmm. right? So, but maybe your angle is to build a team like I would do if I were going to go back into production, is I would just build a boutique team. I would be the listing agent and I would let the other agents, I would let them list, but They would predominantly work with buyers. And I would follow that system that I did. I'd end up acquiring a book for each of the people on my team. And I would, if they stayed with me for 3 years, I would try to continually accumulate clients in their geographic area. And then I would sell that book to them after 3 years if they chose to exit the team at that point. So I could earn 6 years income from an agent. Heck, why not? And it's a recruiting strategy as well. So, Jason.
What's for the buyer buying a book of business? What are the best kind of in-person events? Because you talk about 2 in-person events and 2 education events. Can you give me a few examples of the in-person events that would work the best? Because I mean, I would imagine renting out a movie theater, probably not so much, or something like that. So there's some examples you can give for that for the buyer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And first of all, like think about Marion, she's newer agent, doesn't have a big database. If she throws a party and rents a movie theater, it's going to be a little scary. Okay. So don't do that. However, if Marion gets together with a dozen affiliates that have customers, she could do a great picnic in the park, right? And you don't have to worry about how many seats are filled or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think kind of my favorite for this time of year would be a picnic in the park. Client appreciation, have a bounce house and face painting and cornhole and, just fun games. And I would do a drawing. We have one of our agents in Denver, Jason. He has an affiliate sponsor a drawing every month for his database. I thought was a pretty great idea. So, but that would be good in the summertime. Something outdoors is probably appropriate. I think a picnic in the park is probably easiest. In the wintertime, you can pull off a movie theater, by the way, if you do it with your affiliates, right? You may not be able to fill it by yourself, but you could maybe do that. Other one could be a bowling deal and then have a little party room, like we do for kids. But the other, like Tom has done pie give. A lot of agents actually have people come to the office and give pie giveaways. That's another one. You could Valentine's Day, you can give away roses. I mean, basically, what I would do is I would just do whatever you enjoyed, right? In other words, whatever you think that would be fun for you and your clients to do, host that kind of party. And the other thing is agents are doing these now, you guys. So especially in your situation, Jason, where you're working with 40, 50 different agents, ask them what's been the most successful party event that you've done. Like I was talking to Heather Wilson out of Denver, and one of the things that she did was she did a client appreciation event, and she did it with Santa Claus, and she had a professional photographer there, and she did it actually in late November, very early December, so that they could use those photos for their Christmas cards. Right. And she would get 200 to 250 people for that. What is Courtney saying here? You could also partner up with
I'm going to say it wrong, with a nonprofit.
Oh yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, do a little fundraiser. If there's a charity that you support or get involved with, tie that into it, and they'll help you. And they always have lots of volunteers that can greet people and give away little bags of goodies and fun stuff, right? So make it fun, but do something. And we teach you guys how to communicate with your sphere, coming from a place of value, being a real estate resource. But one easy thing is if you can just call them and invite them to a party. Most people like a party, right? Jason, do you have another?
I have a different question. Yeah, it's totally a little bit of a pivot. I'm curious because in my area in Southern Oregon, agents that are getting out of the business, that the silver tsunami you're talking about, right? The agents that have been in for a long time, they typically don't have their database in any kind of a CRM. Really, it's in their Google contacts. It's all. Is that what you've seen out there also with these agents that you're trying to buy a book of business from? Or are they typically pretty organized?
No, that would just be from agents that just want to do a deal now and then.
It's kind of a mess.
Not a great strategy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so that is actually a great way to close this conversation, though, you guys, is that even if you're not looking to sell your book of business right now, you're going to want to get it into a CRM. I mean, we now have, and we've had KV Core, but we now go into Bold Trail. And so get that in there and get it in. And just each time you communicate with someone in your database, just try to enhance it a little, right? Find out the kids' names, get the birthdays, right? Get their anniversary. Everybody, by the way, should be sending them an anniversary of purchase with an offer for a updated valuation, right? That's an easy one. But Jason, in order to have a sellable book of business, for sure, they have to have it in a CRM. Yeah. Okay, let's wrap it up, Tom. What are we up to now?
Okay. Well, hey, next week we've got an amazing leader, Patrick Showers, that has been one of the top leaders in the nation, who has recently joined us. And he's a coach, he's a mentor, team leader. He is going to rock the world next Wednesday. So don't miss it. Same time, same bat channel. Now you got your inspiration. Time to put in a perspiration. We'll see y'all next week or sooner. Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Yeah.